Beautiful blessings, everyone. Happy Saturday. We are having rain where I am, and so the energy has a very strong conduit today because the water it's living and it's kind of acts sometimes as a bridge for energies and spirit, but also it has that creative aspect to it. So I was very, very drawn today to do the energy and spirit oracle reading. And when I was sitting before the reading, a message kind of came through just to encourage all of us to pay attention today, because there's going to be a lot of teachings in a very creative way. So whether it's something as interesting as your ice cube in your iced tea today, the way it kind of looks, and all of a sudden it catches your eye, there's a message in that. And so this is something that Spirit was kind of nudging a little bit this morning, is to pay attention, because today's messages or awarenesses are going to come, the little droplets, in very creative ways. And just as long as we recognize that, just don't doubt. Know that if it's something that's catching your eye and you're getting a kind of a vibe from it, or a feeling, that's definitely something that you're meant to pay attention to. So I'm just going to quickly, I use my Tibetan bowls. This kind of raises the energy a little bit, and it also, it kind of clears out any residual energies that have been stagnant. And I ring it 3 times. The first one is for source, the second one is for spirit, and the third is for soul. I'm just going to quick shuffle the cards today. And it's felt very creative. This morning my sky was the sailor's warning, or the shepherd's warning. It was very, very reddy orange, and it just felt like something from a storybook. It was really beautiful, but it felt like today was a day to pay attention. So I would just like to say thank you to Source for this breath of life, and ask Spirit to please step forward with our loved ones, ancestors, guides, light beings, masters. Thank you for allowing me to be a conduit today. Please allow me to bring a message to inspire for the highest good. Okay. I'm just gonna pull, and usually it comes up like that, so I take that one. Prophets and ancient seers, decisions, predictive guidance. And this is card number 18. And so they're saying that this is coinciding with what they were giving me earlier, that I mentioned right before I pull the cards, is that to look for the very creative signs that Spirit is going to use today, or even the next few days, to look into this, that there is more to it, that there's so much more to the story. And so part of being able to see and be a seer or a prophet is that we're looking into things, and it's not always as what it seems. I'm going to read from the book from this one. They're asking me to take the message that's here. So, okay. Although the prophets of ancient societies are also ascended masters and bring equally profound guidance, they carry with them a slightly different energy. Their messages are often predictive, revealing future potentials, and offering advice on how to achieve an outcome that is desired. The ancient seers are a powerful group that span the length of history, and they include biblical prophets like Isaiah and Daniel, the Greek Pythia, the Oracle of Delphi, and other lesser-known soothsayers of Western Europe. From the Druid high priestesses and priests to the English prophets, Mother Shipton, and the French astrologer Nostradamus. These brilliant prophets were all able to see future events and answer questions that were put to them. They are here to do the same for you. Invoke their presence. This card upright reveals that they are near, ready to guide you in the right direction and bring you to the desired outcome. And this is something that I can say with my own experience. I have had many times I channel, and what happens is I usually listen to music, and in that space it opens everything up, and then whatever energies want to come through, I usually wind up writing poetry. For some reason, the masters and guides, or I call them intergalactic beings, because they kind of open this big vortex above my head, and it brings through the muses and the creativity. They give me the teachings and the lessons and future life events through poetry. That is what, for whatever reason, that energy that I can identify with, that I seem to be able to share. And so what they're kind of saying today, which kind of differentiates a little bit from the book, is that a lot of times the way that we can sit, I know a lot of people do automatic writing. Some people use different things like a pendulum, or they scry, however you want to say that, and they look into the water. But what they're saying is that a lot of times the messages and the prophecies, besides our dream work, there's lots of us that do dream work, and we're able to go in between the dimensions and see the Akashic records and the timeline, so to speak. They also come through with creativity. So a lot of times an artist, it's painting, they get this vision and they paint it, and they're not always sure exactly what it is or where they've seen it from. Maybe it's a place they've just created. They've never actually seen it, but they're painting this beautiful garden. Or in my case, I'm using myself as an example, I have written poetry. They've given me parts of a timeline, so to speak, that I didn't understand at the time. It was poetry that was just flowing. And in the beginning, it took a little practice for me to trust that and say, this doesn't make any sense. I'm not familiar with any of these energies, situations, people, things that were going on. But as the years went on, and that's sometimes we have to be patient, the things that we're experiencing, we're seeing, or we're dreaming, or we're creating from that space, it's not in the moment always. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it could be a quick nudge, like, hey, you're driving along and you have this pull to make a left instead of a right, and you do, and so you realize, wow, there was an accident had I went the other way. But a lot of times with the prophecies, it's something that's much further on, and sometimes we may not even see the outcome of that. It's something that we're leaving little seeds for future generations to come across. Not necessarily that we even have to go out and preach this. We could just infuse that into our art, our music, sculptures, gardens, whatever part of your creativity that the muse inspires. In my case, it was the writings. And years later now, things are occurring. I'm looking back, they're telling me, go back and read this and read that. And it's almost phenomenally unbelievable how much it feels like, wow, I'm living this. And so a lot of being able to see. She's looking, she's scrying, looking in the water with all the light beings around her, orbs and stars and light energies. A lot of times it just boils down to trusting that sometimes it's not going to make sense in the moment, but we know, because it's going to resonate with you when you're bringing this through in whatever way that you do, that it means something. If it touches you in some way, or it just sits, it resonates in that space and that being, then share that, write it down, paint it, make that song, sketch the image that's in your mind, even if it's a bunch of things that really doesn't make sense, and trust that we're being invited into not only the Akashic records, but the universe has imprints of knowledge. They're all working in the other dimensions for us. They're sending little bits of inspiration. They call beloved Mavis Patilla, who was a medium at the Journey Within Church. She used to say little droplets of God, and she called them inspirers, and they would come through and they would just leave these little beautiful encouragements for us. And so what they're doing is some of the greatest ingenious inventions has already been thought out and is imprinted in the universe. And when we're coming up with that moment, we're just connecting with that information that's there. And I know the ego likes to say to us, no, that was my idea, that was all me, or I'm genius, or I'm the most creative virtuoso in my music, or whatever. And we kind of have to, in order to keep connecting to the universe and have the messages come through the masters and the guides and look in the Akashic records, we have to be very humble and know that this is a privilege. Although it is our right, it is a privilege to be able to channel that and share that with others, because not everybody in that moment is able to reach that space. And so we're kind of, one hand is lifting the other through. And so we have to, in order to really be clear, we have to set aside the ego and understand that everything is coming from creation, from source. And from there, it filters through. So if it's something amazing, that there's been a medical breakthrough, there's always a hand in the other dimensions that has something to do with that. A small part is just being implanted into those that have the abilities here to see that through. And if we're humble in that space and we recognize that we're, again, just like we're centering the Christ light, we're holding that space, we're sharing that, we are also anchoring all this information and all the prophecies and all the visions that are coming to us from a higher source. And so with that, I would like to say thank you for allowing me to share this with you today. I hope that wherever you are today, you've got a little bit of that inspiration, or you're able to tap into that in the universe and share that with everyone. Because sometimes, even though something may not make sense to you, you may be somebody's prayer that day, someone's inspiration, and source, spirit, God, all the masters, their loved ones are working through you to inspire them. And then it's rippling. And it's not about us all the time. It's about the ripples when we're doing that. We're kind of opening the book and saying, everybody, like story time when you're a child, come sit and listen. And when we do that, that's sharing and raising the vibration together. And that's part of what creativity is. It's no fun if we just write these beautiful things that we're coming up with and leave it in a notebook somewhere. You don't have to make $1 million and be the next you know, novel on the New York best-selling Times list. Just put it in a blog, put it on your Facebook page, share it, because you could be changing a life. So thank you, everyone. Much love and many blessings.